I won't lie, I'm not really a traditional NBA fan. My favorite player is Kyle O'Quinn, and a close second is Quincy Acey. I was first introduced to the game of basketball through stealing my dad's iPad and looking at random stats on an NBA app. Even still today, I probably focus more on the numbers, the smaller stories, and the random players more than I do actual NBA games. And yet, despite all that, Christian Wood had slipped through the cracks for me for years. Until his rise in Detroit, I had never even heard of this man. Allowing myself to never realize that he was in the league for 3 straight years was something that I saw as a failure to my nature to sniff these kind of guys out so naturally. But it also was a testament to how out of nowhere his come up was. If he pans out and becomes a perennial all-star, which I believe he will be, there will never be anyone we've ever seen have a come up quite like him. Wood has been on 6 teams, meaning that 5 of those teams willingly just let him go. Looking back with hindsight, we have to ask ourselves why. This year, Wood is averaging 23, 10, and 2 blocks, and you have to imagine that all those teams that gave up on him are really regretting letting go of an asset that could have made their franchises either title contenders or, in some cases, even super teams. Let's visualize how the addition of a player this talented would benefit those 5 teams that let him go. And by the end of my research personally, I was very thankful that a lot of these scenarios didn't work out, because these are just some straight up unbeatable super teams that would have come to fruition had some teams just given him a chance. But before that, subscribe. If you don't subscribe, I hate you, straight up. These videos take a while to make, and I'm actually trying to upload a lot more frequently as of late, so just click that button. It's really simple, really easy, and it shows me that my hard work is paying off, and I really cannot even put into words how much I can appreciate something like that. And with that out of the way, let's go down the timeline of teams. Before these 5 teams gave up on Christian Wood, however, all 30 teams did so twice in the 2015 NBA draft, and apparently after this happened, Wood's girlfriend just headed out and left him. Now, I'm not one to ridicule women, but thankfully I know someone who is. Hey Mojo, how would you describe this girl?
Yuck, he could have done way better. That'd be ugly.
Thank you, Mojo. Wonderful analysis. But yeah, I can't decide what's more insane. The fact that there are 5 teams out there that had Christian Wood and just willingly decided to say goodbye to him, or the fact that he actually went undrafted in a draft class that had Willie Cauley-Stein, Stanley Johnson, Jahlil Okafor, Emmanuel Mudiay, Trey Lyles, Mario Hezonja, Frank Kaminsky, and Cameron Payne all get drafted in the lottery. Okay, let's get on to Team 1, the Philadelphia 76ers, who signed Wood to 2 10-day contracts before they'd waive him. At this point, the team is really bad. Joel Embiid was sidelined for the season with an injury and had yet to make his NBA debut, and Ben Simmons was still in college over at LSU, so the team's starting lineup consisted of Ish Smith, Robert Covington, the version of Jeremy Grant that wasn't anything special yet, Jahlil Okafor, and Nerlens Noel. A team this bad is just a tragic sight. Now, this might be a shock for some of you, but I'm honestly not that interested in speculating what a long-term duo of Ish Smith and Christian Wood would look like. But assuming that they keep him for many years to come, a duo of him and Embiid would be on the horizon and would instantly overshine that lame big man backcourt they had going on with Okafor and Noel. Wood and Embiid would really be fun to watch together. Joel could play more of an inside game, while Wood would play the 4 and do a lot more on the outside. I don't want to pursue an in-depth, full-on what-if scenario for each of these teams that dropped Wood, but I do have to ask the question, are the Sixers able to secure Ben Simmons in this new reality? I'm going to say yes. Wood was clearly a late bloomer, and starting him probably won't alter the team's record so much so that they won't get get the first pick in the 2016 draft, meaning that now the Sixers have a trio of Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Christian Wood, with Robert Covington still there as well. In my eyes, that's a championship team. Sure, it doesn't have a great shooting core, but at some point you're just so dominant and unguardable that at the end of the day, will it even matter? And to think that the Sixers could have had this if they just didn't waive Wood. It was so easy. For 2017, Wood signs with the Hornets, a team that has an atrocious track record when it comes to acquiring big men. Cody Zeller, Biyombo, and Kaminsky first come to mind. But that's not an issue anymore with this team no longer giving up on Christian Wood in this new hypothetical. A duo of Wood and Kemba is interesting, but nothing out of the ordinary. Christian would probably make this team a low playoff seed for many years to come, but Charlotte would have to do a lot more than just keep Wood for the future to really be something, and given their track record, I don't have faith that they'll be able to do that. I won't lie, of all 5 of these scenarios, this was probably the lamest, although it would result in some fun highlights and classic moments for this franchise. In 2018, 0 teams even give Christian Wood a shot, which, using hindsight, is just nuts to think about. But for 2019, we're given 2 fantastic hypotheticals. To kick off the year, Wood signs with the Bucks, and before anyone else, Giannis is pretty much immediately on the bandwagon. Apparently, the two were forming a pretty strong relationship before he was waived, and literally one day before Milwaukee cut him, Antetokounmpo tweeted this: "Love his work ethic. He's up next." This was a guy averaging like 1 point off the bench. So really, if the Bucks treated Giannis the way most teams treat generational talents once they get their hands on them, Milwaukee has a ring. That's tough. History coming to fruition. And really, that's enough for me. As for the second half of the year, Wood signed with the Pelicans. Unfortunately, Anthony Davis is going to leave for the Lakers the next year, and we will never really get to see what these 2 stars could look like together. But hey, that's boring. Maybe Wood is so good that Davis is convinced, and although even Zion couldn't convince him to stay, and this scenario is wildly unrealistic, we're just having fun here, so why not think about it? A duo of AD and Wood might even be better than a duo of Giannis and Wood. Wood actually plays a lot like Davis minus the defense, and yet again, the fantastic defensive ability of Davis will likely make this fact a lot less of a big deal. He can cover for him. Okay, so enough dreaming. AD leaves, but now Wood finds himself in the middle of a trio of himself, Zion, and Ingram, which is pretty much almost undoubtedly better. Zion doesn't have to space out the floor if he's playing alongside a center that can do that for him. Ingram is a reliable offensive leader and first option, and then Lonzo's there as well, and a good passer paired with a big man is just fantastic in any context. We already see the current Pelicans roster as one that will be the future of the league, so throw Wood onto it, and Jesus, that's multiple championships you're gonna get. This team would be the face of the 2020s, far outplaying Luka's Mavs and Giannis's Bucks, assuming their teams don't craft super teams of their own. What makes this hypothetical so annoying is the fact that it's not even really a hypothetical. This really happened. They really had it, and they let it slip. And for me, as a passionate NBA fan, that's just insane to think about. And then finally, we have the Pistons, probably the only team out of this bunch that you actually remember Wood ever playing for. And look at that. Instead of generic NBA game footage, we now have a mixtape of this man occupying the screen. And that's because this 4th year in his career really was more like his first. This was the year we began to care about Christian Wood. The year that made us look back at that picture of his girlfriend leaving him and just think, damn, you missed out hard. Detroit is more of a unique hypothetical because there really isn't any big star to pair Christian Wood with. So I would have to assume that Wood himself is now that big star. If they had re-signed Wood, the implication would have been that he was going to be their guy that they would build around for the future. And that's an interesting interesting thought. Wood's a likable guy that I very clearly want to see succeed, and having a team to himself would probably result in more personal accolades, all-star teams, and him getting ranked higher in people's player rankings. But would the fun last? Would we all embrace his greatness at the start and then realize that maybe he's better off being a second option and then all of a sudden start brutally clowning him? I mean, I've never seen it happen before, so probably not. Honestly, even this pretty mediocre route might have been the best one for the Pistons. This is a doomed franchise that wasn't going to be good regardless of if they decided to pay Christian Wood or not. So assuming that they do pay him, at least Piston fans have a star to get behind. D Rose can't do it like he used to, and Blake Griffin is too injury prone to be the face of Pistons basketball. But Detroit can keep Wood for over a decade before he'll reach the stage of his career that the other big names on this roster are currently at. It's not a fantastic hypothetical, but I would definitely get some satisfaction out of seeing Wood average 25 and 10 for a couple of years. There's no harm in playing the role of the next Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, or Karl Anthony Towns, but placing Christian Wood into a scenario where people are going to continue to ask what if about him the way they would do with any other player carrying a bad team just isn't as fulfilling as these other scenarios. There's really no greater message to any of this, but sometimes it's just interesting to try to put into perspective just how different the league could look if just a few small things were altered. All the Bucks have to do is listen to Giannis, and boom, there's a perfect big three brewing in Milwaukee. All the Pistons have to do is pay someone that they already know is really good, and boom, the next 10 years look drastically different for them. And of course, all the Sixers have to do is not waive Wood, and boom, dynasty. I've just never seen a player that's been given up on so frequently, even to the point where he went unsigned for an entire season, glow up into a player as good as this. The entire story is incredible, and the bumps in the road truly do make for some great hypotheticals. And with that, we conclude this video. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, you can subscribe to the channel. As I said earlier, we are doing this multiple times a week, and the future content I'm going to have coming out for you guys is stuff that you just won't want to miss. Trust me, I'm very active over on Twitter. The links to the socials are on screen as we speak, and with everything out of the way, stay safe out there.